Jean-Bertrand Aristide was ousted from power. What happened? Well, we saw the events leading up to February 29th, rebels moving in on the capital. You wonder in Haiti, who were these rebels? This right after the bicentennial of this great nation of Haiti, born of a slave rebellion, the oldest black republic in the world. Jean-Bertrand Aristide had been swept to power in a democratic election in 1990, 1991, by a lavalas, a wave. More than 90% of the people voted for him, the first democratically elected president of Haiti. He'd been a fiery priest before that, and on September 11th, 1988, at the Saint Jean Bosco Church, his church in Port-au-Prince, thugs moved in as he was preaching, and they massacred the congregants. Then Aristide was ousted in 91 to 94. In 1993, on the 5th anniversary of the Saint Jean Bosco massacre, Antoine Ismery, who is a Haitian-American businessman who'd thrown his lot in with Lavalas, was in a procession remembering the massacre. He was outside of a church, marching with others. He was forced to his knees and executed. By who? By Jodel Chamblain, who was the number 2 man in FRAP, the paramilitary death squad that was set up during the coup, the number 1 man, Emmanuel Constant, on the payroll of the intelligence agencies of this country. FRAP responsible for thousands of Haitian deaths. My colleague Alan Nairn had exposed the CIA, DIA, Defense Intelligence Agency connection during the coup. Aristide then brought back into the country, finishes his term, another president comes in because the Constitution says you can only serve 1 term, and then you can serve another term, but it can't be consecutive, and then he is elected again, and that's the term he was serving now. 10 years later, he is ousted once again. Do we know who these rebels are? Yes, they're the same people that ousted Aristide 10 years ago. Jodel Chamblain, when was the last time you heard the description of him in the corporate networks? Who he was, what organization he came from, what role it played with the US. Jean Tatoun, the same, responsible for the Rabateau massacre, and the list goes on. On February 29th, Aristide says, in the early morning hours, the number 2 man in the US Embassy came to his home, told him that the Aristides could be killed, thousands of Haitians could die, that they could only avert this if they left the country. Aristide said he wanted to talk to the press, thought he was being taken to talk to the press. Instead, he said he was taken to the airport, forced onto a plane with dozens of US military and security, didn't know where they were going. When Mildred Aristide, the First Lady of Haiti, tried to lift up the shade, she was told to bring it down. And they traveled for 24 hours. No one knew where they were until on Monday morning, March 1st, right after our broadcast, that we repeat the broadcast throughout the morning, we got a call from Congressmember Maxine Waters and Trans-Africa founder Randall Robinson. They said, put us on the air right away. We've just spoken with the Aristides. We went on the air immediately. And they said that the Aristides had been dumped in the Central African Republic, that they had been ousted, as Aristide put it, a modern kidnapping in the service of a coup d'etat backed by the United States. We went on the air, and because we're now broadcasting on television, we do closed captioning, so 28 million Americans who are deaf and hard of hearing can access the program. We take the closed captioning, use the transcript, put it on our website so many more people can access the information. Reporters at the White House and the Pentagon took the transcripts in the next hour, and they started to ask questions of the White House press secretary and Donald Rumsfeld. They asked Donald Rumsfeld, is what Pacifica reporting true, that Aristide's been kidnapped, that the US is behind the coup d'etat? And Donald Rumsfeld laughed. They said, we asked for an answer, not a laugh. And he responded, that's ridiculous. Well, I know in my years as a reporter, when a politician says that's ridiculous, you're probably on the right track. That's what I call trickle-up journalism. And then 2 weeks later, Congressmember Maxine Waters and Randall Robinson chartered a plane. It left from Miami. I covered this historic journey. From Miami, we went to St. Thomas, to Dakar, Senegal, to Bangui, Central African Republic, and then chronicled the high-stakes negotiation that went on for 7 hours with the dictator of the Central African Republic, who himself was celebrating the first year of his own coup. The US knows how to choose them. Aristide said to me at some point in the night, as the dictator had gone off to think about whether to release the Aristides, Aristide said he's gone off to make a call to the US and to France to ask, basically, for his marching orders. Ultimately, about 2, 3 in the morning, they were freed. The small delegation called the bluff of the most powerful country on earth, the United States. The United States said Aristide had fled his own country and that he was a free man. They said if he is a free man, that he cannot be held prisoner, he should be free to go. Yes, as Margaret Mead said, never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed people can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has. Once the dictator gave the go-ahead, the delegation made its way to the airport. I was driving with the Aristides. I handed President Aristide a phone, not for him to talk to me about his thoughts, but for him to tell the world what he was thinking. We were broadcasting back to the Democracy Now! Studios, and we were putting these reports online at democracynow.org, and AP was exclusively taking the reports and broadcasting them around the world. In those few days is when we got the close to 4 million hits, as people devoured the information, as people tried to get information other than what the US government was saying, that the Aristides just decided to set up residence in the Central African Republic, a place that had 1 plane out a week, very little electricity, very difficult to make a phone call. Yes, trickle-up journalism once again. It can make an enormous difference. There are cracks in the corporate media structure. It is not a monolith when we support these grassroots, really, media uprisings, not only in this country, but around the world. And so we made our way back from the Central African Republic to Dakar, Senegal, to the Cape Verde Islands, to Barbados. And as we flew over the Atlantic, I interviewed Aristide. And when we landed in Barbados, the Democracy Now! Newsroom told me that Condoleezza Rice, Donald Rumsfeld, and Colin Powell were all threatening Aristide, saying he was not to return to this hemisphere. Whose hemisphere? And then, as we're coming into Jamaica, P.J. Patterson, the Prime Minister and head of CARICOM, the Caribbean community, had invited the Aristides to stay there until they decided their next move. As we were flying in, the U.S. ambassador to Haiti, James Foley, said Aristide was not to come within 150 miles of the country. Haiti. Whose country? Aristide did land, and they went off and reunited with their 2 small daughters as they remain in Jamaica today, deciding their next move, possibly to move on to South Africa, saying he's listening very carefully to the people of Haiti. I interviewed the head of the Steele Foundation, which provides the security for the Haitian government. It's based in San Francisco. Old Special Forces guys, Navy SEALs, the kind of Special Forces people you see now in Iraq. And I asked the head of the Steele Foundation, you know, were the Aristides in danger? The reports were that the Steele Foundation had wanted to send reinforcements as this small group of thugs were moving in on the Capitol. We're not talking about a popular uprising. And though he basically answered no comment to almost every question I asked, on that issue of whether they were in danger, he said, you just have to ask why the US military moved in a day after the Aristides left, not a day before.